Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome to Emergency Management Associates. We're coming to you from the Area Command, 392 miles west of Kitty Hawk Beach, North Carolina. We want to welcome everybody to our show tonight. I'm setting up right now the chat so I can see it. I want everybody to know that I would like your input. I'd like everybody to put your input into the chat so we can talk about it. This program today is all about preparedness. It's all about what's going on in our nation, and it's all about what's going on around the world. I'm going to tell it like it is, as President Trump said he's going to do tonight. I'm going to tell you what it is, what's going on. I'm not going to hold back. I'm not going to play games with anybody or anything. I want everybody to realize the importance of what we're talking about. Okay? So please feel free to put your comments in the chat. Tell it like it is, and be ready to ask questions as we go through this program this afternoon, this evening. Okay? I will not be making a long presentation today because I want us to go over to President Trump's program, State of the Union. I believe it's going to start at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. I want everybody to go over there and watch his program. I believe it's going to tell it like it is. He's going to give us exactly what we need to hear and what we need to be doing here, not just in the United States, but worldwide. Okay? Give me just a second. I'm setting this up here so we can get going here. Okay, I think we're set up now. Please, guys, also give us a thumbs up if you like what we're talking about. Also, please subscribe to our program. When you subscribe to our program, please click on that little bell icon so you can get notified when we come on the air. That's very important. Okay? Click when you subscribe to the program, or you have to resubscribe because YouTube has taken you off our subscription list. Subscribe to the program and click on that little notification bell. And then when you click on that, click on the word all. That should get you notified when we come on the air. But be advised, YouTube does not always do that. I'm just going to be honest with you. YouTube does not always do that. Okay? YouTube does whatever they darn well please. I'm just telling you. I'm just telling you right now, YouTube does whatever they darn well please to do. But I want everybody to make sure that you are ready to go with this program tonight. Now, I want to start off this program talking about some earthquakes. Okay? With that, I'm going to go over to the USGS map. There are some things that we need to talk about tonight before we get going with anything else. Okay, I'm going to remove our webcam here. I'm going to remove our banner here. And let's talk about earthquakes around the world. Okay? Just a second here. Okay, I want to go over here into South Pacific first. Okay, this is important. All earthquakes anywhere around the world originate down here in the South Pacific. I want to first talk about what's going on over here on the north part of the South Island of New Zealand. There's been another earthquake here. Okay? Usually we've talked about moderate earthquakes down here in the lower southwestern portion of the South Island of New Zealand. We've seen plenty of 4s down here, 4.4, 4.5 earthquakes as of recent days. Okay? Today, over here on the northwestern part of the South Island of New Zealand, we have another 4.0 moderate earthquake. Again, USGS calls these light earthquakes, and I'm telling you right now, there's no such thing as a light earthquake. I don't give a flying rat's butt. I don't give a flying rat's frosty keister what USGS calls them. Okay? At this point in time, USGS is trying to make the best out of things and are not trying to protect the public. Moderate earthquakes are just that, moderate earthquakes. They cause damage. Okay? USGS labeling a 4.0, 4.9 to be a light earthquake makes people think that nothing's going to happen. Moderate earthquakes create moderate damage. Okay? This earthquake is over here on the northwestern part, the South Island here. Okay? This is a moderate 4.0 earthquake here, near Takaka, New Zealand. Okay? But notice one other thing. USGS is not showing any other earthquakes here. There are 18 earthquakes here between the North and the South Island of New Zealand. 18 earthquakes that they're not telling us about. Okay? Why? Because they think they can. They think they can. Even on the USGS website, they say they are not going to talk about all earthquakes around the globe. Now, New Zealand is a population center both on the South and the North Island. Population centers. That means people live there. Large groups of people live over here in New Zealand. They deserve to know what's going on, and we tell them what's going on. We have a lot of New Zealanders that watch this program, so we talk about quakes here in New Zealand. North of New Zealand right here, this is in the Kermadec Islands here. The Kermadec Islands are not populated centers of human beings. The Kermadec Islands are bird sanctuaries. We've had many earthquakes here in the Kermadec Islands as of recent years. This is a 4.7 moderate earthquake here. The only time any humans go over here to the Kermadec Islands, it's usually at high tide. That's because if at low tide they were to approach the islands, their boats would be dashed upon the rocks that hide just beneath the waves. Volcanic mountains here under the sea here in the South Pacific. If the people approached this during low tide, they would die. They would never reach the Kermadec Islands. Okay, but they go during high tide to check on the birds. That's all that's there. Let's go over here, and there are earthquakes in Fiji, there are earthquakes in Tonga. They're moderate earthquakes and small earthquakes, but there are earthquakes. USGS is again not talking about them. Let's go over the Solomon Islands here. Okay, this is a large 5.3 earthquake. Large 5.3 earthquake. This is 104 kilometers east-southeast of Onaria, Solomon Islands. Okay, a 5.3 earthquake. Now I want to say this: a 5.0 to 5.5 earthquake are the small side of fives. 5.0, 5.9 are large earthquakes. Large earthquakes. USGS is classifying these as moderate earthquakes. Large earthquakes create a large amount of damage. Think about that. Large earthquakes create a large amount of damage. They also kill people and injure people. A moderate earthquake doesn't injure many people at all, except for possibly flying glass from broken windows, like we saw back in 2014 in Los Angeles. Okay, that happened when a 4.5 earthquake created all kinds of havoc in Los Angeles, breaking water mains, gas mains, and breaking plate glass windows all over Los Angeles. That was not a 4.5 earthquake, that was a large earthquake. Okay, USGS designated that as a 4.5, but it was a large earthquake. Okay, here in Onaria, Solomon Islands here, we have a 5.3 large earthquake today. Again, this is off in the Pacific Ocean. It's off in the Pacific Ocean. It's nowhere near land, and as a result, the Pacific Ocean waters absorb the shock waves of this quake. Nobody hurt, nobody killed, and no property damage. Let's go further west here. Okay, over here in Papua New Guinea, this is a 4.6 moderate quake, 59 kilometers deep. 59 kilometers deep. Folks, right here, notice where this earthquake is. Okay, again, it's over here in the water, far enough away from any island where nobody felt it. Nobody felt this earthquake. This is a 4.6 moderate quake. Nobody felt this. Ocean waters here absorbed the shock waves of this quake again. If this had been on land, people may have felt it. People may have felt it on land, but nobody felt it here. Okay? It could have created some damage because the people here in Papua New Guinea and over here in Papua Indonesia don't have money. Many of their homes are cardboard, wooden homes, shacks basically, and they have very little property at all. They don't have apartments, they don't have homes on property except for cardboard and wooden shacks. That's the best that they have. Okay? I've seen it happen. We talked about this many months ago last year when we had a very strong earthquake over here in Papua Indonesia, in Papua New Guinea. We go over here into Indonesia here. Okay? This is over in Eastern Java area, east of Java. This is over in the Banda Sea. In the Banda Sea. Again, we're not on any islands here. We're not anywhere close to islands here. The ocean waters of the Banda Sea absorbed the shock waves of this earthquake. It was a 4.4 moderate quake here, 182 kilometers deep. 182 kilometers deep. Let's go north. This is Tobelo, Indonesia. Another 4.4 earthquake here. This is 101 kilometers deep. Nobody felt this earthquake either. 75 kilometers west-northwest of Tobelo, Indonesia. Right here. This is a 4.5. A 4.5. This is northeast of Tobelo, Indonesia. Out in the Pacific Ocean waters. Nobody felt this earthquake either. Okay? Let's go north. We go over here to Mindanao, Philippines, the largest island in the Philippines. Okay? This is a large earthquake. This is a large 5.0 earthquake. Many people felt this earthquake. Okay? Population centers, it was over here in the hills, the foothills, here in the Philippines. Okay? The nearest town was 5 kilometers away, 2.5 miles south-southwest, Magsaysay, Philippines. This is going to cause damage. This one caused damage, guys. This one caused damage. It's over here in the foothills of the mountains here. Okay? But if anybody lived anywhere near where this earthquake hit, such as right in here, people felt that quake. People felt that quake. People down here also felt this quake. There are small communities, small towns, and villages over here in Mindanao, Philippines. Okay? People felt this quake. Okay? I'm waiting to hear exactly what happened here. I'm waiting to hear what happened here. Okay? This happened last night at 8:42 p.m. I'm still waiting to hear what happened here in Mindanao, Philippines. Okay? Now, over here in Japan, south of Japan here. This is closer to Taiwan, but these islands here, south of Japan, are owned by Japan. This is a 4.5 earthquake. 4.5 moderate earthquake. 168 kilometers north-northeast of Hirara, Japan. Hirara, Japan is an island over here. Okay? It's in the Ryukyu Islands here. Nowhere near land, and as a result, the ocean waters absorb the shock waves of this quake. We go over here to Japan here. Honshu, Japan. Okay? This earthquake happened. Okay? This earthquake happened here early this morning. Way early this morning. All right? 1:12 a.m. this morning Eastern Time. We talked to you yesterday about a moderate earthquake in the same region, in the same area. This area is a highly populated area. highly populated area. This earthquake did some damage. This is a moderate quake. It did some damage. 4.4 moderate quake. It was 71 kilometers deep. Still a fairly shallow quake. That is one of the reasons it did damage. It was a shallow earthquake here. Shallow earthquake here in a populated area of Japan. And it's not the only earthquake that hit here. USGS is still not showing all the earthquakes hitting here. Let's go over here to Europe really quickly. Okay? Just a second. My daughter's calling to talk to her mother. I would have talked to her too if I was not on the air. I want to talk about these earthquakes here. These are in Italy, guys. And you have to remember this. USGS is still not showing us all the earthquakes that are happening here. Okay? This is an earthquake here. It's a 3.2 small earthquake. 3.2 small earthquake. 3.0, 3.9 are considered to be small earthquakes. This is also a very shallow quake. 11 kilometers deep. 3.2 earthquakes can be felt. 3.2 earthquakes can be felt, but they're not going to cause damage. You're going to feel some movement beneath your feet, and depending on the length of the earthquake, you can feel this earthquake move beneath your feet for some time period. Now, there are other earthquakes also in this area. USGS is not showing you all of them. There are about 18 earthquakes here in this region right here where this earthquake hit. We have a pretty good large swarm of earthquakes right here. And again, the BS agency is not telling you everything. They never do. They never ever do. We can go further down here to the south where we've had a lot of earthquakes recently because of magma beneath the surface. Magma down here beneath the surface. Yes, at some point in time, there is going to be a volcanic eruption here in Italy. Right now, earthquakes have calmed down here, at least calmed down somewhat. We still have some seismic tremors here. That's going to be ongoing because we have magma recurring here in this volcano. And yes, we are going to see a volcanic eruption at some point in time in this area right here in Italy. I'm just saying, it's going to happen. It's definitely going to happen. Down here off the north coast of Sicily, Mount Etna is erupting. Mount Etna is erupting. The emergency officials here in Sicily are asking people to stay away from the volcano. Stay away from the volcano. The volcano over at Mount Etna is ejecting magma balls. Ejecting magma balls down the slopes of the volcano. These magma balls can hit and hit people. You're being urged to stay. Excuse me, I'm sorry. You're being urged to stay away from the volcano completely. Yes, the volcano has drawn tourists here. And yes, there have been some very experienced hiking guides that have hiked to the summit of this volcano before it erupted again. Again, people are being cautioned to stay away from this erupting volcano. Okay? Another volcano also here. What is it? Stromboli volcano has also been erupting, but not as violently right now as Mount Etna. I'm just putting that out there for everybody's knowledge. Okay? Let's go over here to northern Italy here. Off the northwest coast, Italy here. We have a 2.5 earthquake here. 2.5 minor earthquake right here. This is 1 mile, 2 kilometers east-southeast of Cassano Dogana, Iola, Italy. Cassano Dogana, D-O-G-A-N-A, Dogana, Isola, Italy. I don't know whether Isola means island here, but it's happened here. A 2.5 minor earthquake right here. 2.5 minor earthquake right here. Normally people don't feel 2.5s unless possibly they're very sensitive people. Yes, there are more earthquakes here in Italy. There are earthquakes over here on the Alps Mountains here. But again, nobody's talking. Rarely does USGS even show earthquakes here, or in Switzerland, Germany, Austria, or France. They don't. They don't. There are earthquakes here in Spain as well. You don't see any earthquakes being shown here either. Earthquakes out here in the Azores Islands, they're not showing those either. Earthquakes down here in the Canary Islands, they're not showing those either. It's sad. It's a very sad state of affairs when our own agency, the preeminent seismic agency of the world, is not showing earthquakes. They're not. Just north of India here. This is Afghanistan. This is a 4.2 earthquake here, 137 kilometers deep. Still a fairly shallow earthquake. A 4.2 moderate earthquake right here. I'm going back here into the Pacific, and I'm going to go past here, over here into the western Aleutian Islands. This earthquake here is a 4.7 moderate earthquake. Yesterday I told you about moderate energy just being off the eastern shores of Kamchatka Peninsula. 4.9, 5.0 energy yesterday. Now, guys, I told you at that time the seismic energy was going to pass through the Aleutian Islands headed eastbound. That's exactly what we have here. This seismic energy here is in the Attu Islands, Attu Station, Alaska. A 4.7 moderate earthquake here. We're going to see more and more earthquakes over here in the Aleutian Islands headed over here to mainland Alaska. Be advised it's going to happen. Let's go over here to the peninsula of Alaska. This is Nelson Lagoon, Alaska. This again is a 4.2 moderate earthquake. A 4.2 moderate earthquake. It's out here in the ocean. It's out here in the ocean of the Baltic Sea. Nobody felt this earthquake either. It's far enough out in the ocean waters that the ocean waters absorb the shock waves of this quake. Okay, let's continue over here in the peninsula. This is a 3.1 small earthquake near Chignik, Alaska. Chignik Lake, Alaska. It's a 3.1 small earthquake. Let's go over here, near Kodiak. This is a 2.3 earthquake here. Again, it's off the southern shore of Kodiak Island, Alaska. 2.3 minor earthquake here. Over here, between the peninsula and Kodiak, we have a 2.0 earthquake here. This is called the Cook Inlet. The Cook Inlet here. 2.0 minor earthquake here. We go further north into the Cook Inlet. Okay, we have two earthquakes here. Both of them in the water. These are minor earthquakes. 2.0 near Tanwa Lake, Alaska. Near Tanwa Lake, Alaska. 2.0 earthquake here, and also a 1.9 2.0 earthquake here. In the water, nobody felt those earthquakes, and they're just minor earthquakes anyway, so nobody's going to even feel them. Okay, we go further north. Okay, this is near Californsky, Alaska. Californsky, Alaska. Now, why is that important? Can you think of why that might be important? Okay, this is a 1.4. Californsky was named Californsky by the Russians. It's a Russian name. Kalifornsky, Californsky, Alaska. We go further north here. Okay, this is Tynak, Alaska here, a 2.0 earthquake. Then we go further to the west here. We have a red earthquake indicating it just happened. This is a 0.7 microquake. This is near Mount Redoubt. This is just east of Mount Redoubt. We go further west here near Mount Redoubt again. This is near the southern flank of Mount Redoubt. This is a 0.8 microquake here. Mount Redoubt has been steaming. There are signs that Mount Redoubt may be able to erupt again, probably within the next few months. I don't expect a full eruption here at Mount Redoubt within the next few months. It might happen later, but not before that. Not before that. Now over here, further north here, we have Mount Spur. We have Mount Spur. Mount Spur is showing signs, very restless signs of a possible eruption. Mount Spur is showing signs of a possible eruption. So we may be seeing that happen. I'm just putting that thought out here that it could happen. And we need to be wary that that could happen. We go up here, okay, Mount McKinley. Mount McKinley, a 2.0 earthquake here. On the southeastern flank of Mount McKinley, we have a 1.5 tremor here. This is Denali, Alaska. Okay, southern part of Denali, Alaska down here, we have a 1.6. Down here in the southeastern part of Denali, we have a 1.8. Over on the western flank of Mount McKinley, we have a 1.6 in Denali, Alaska. Denali, Alaska. Okay, let's go north. Look at all these earthquakes here. Okay, now we have had earthquakes here a lot. We have had earthquakes here a lot. As of about 6 months ago, we had a 5.0 large earthquake in this region. Today, we have a 1.3 tremor here. We have a 1.1 tremor here. We have a 1.4 tremor here. We have a 0.9 microquake here. This is a 1.3. Going further north, this is 0.9. This is near Livengood, Alaska. Livengood, Alaska. Livengood, Alaska. North of there, again, this earthquake just hit. This is 24 kilometers northwest of Livengood, Alaska, a 1.2 tremor. We go further north and east here. This is a 2.3 earthquake, 50 kilometers southwest of Birch Creek, Alaska. Southwest of Birch Creek, Alaska. Let's go further north here. Now the next two earthquakes I'm going to show you, as you can already see, these are in the Arctic Circle. These are in the outer bands of the Arctic Circle here. Okay? This is a 2.7 earthquake here. 2.7 mine earthquake. This is near Dog Mine, Alaska. 65 kilometers east of Red Dog Mine, Alaska. This is the third or fourth earthquake that we've seen here at Red Dog Mine, Alaska in the past month. We go further over here to the east, also in the Arctic Circle. This is a 2.1 earthquake here. This is second 2.1 earthquake that we've had here this week. Okay? This is near Anaktuvuk Pass, Alaska. Anaktuvuk Pass, Alaska. A 2.1 earthquake up here also in the Arctic Circle. Now you can already see an earthquake here up in northern Canada, just to the east of Alaska. This is over in the northern territories of Canada. This is a 4.0 earthquake here. A 4.0 earthquake here in the northern Rockies of Canada. A moderate earthquake here in the northern territory of Canada here today. We go south. We go south. Again, we go over here into the Cascadia region, over here to the volcanoes. Over here to the volcanoes. First off, right here. This is Orcas, Washington. Orcas, Washington. Last night we told you about a large 5.0, 5.1 earthquake that hit here, and USGS said it was a 4.5. It was not ever a 4.5. I don't give a flying rat's frosty keister what USGS says about it. It was not a 4.5, nor was it ever a 4.5. This was a 5.1 earthquake. After this program was over, during the program I had gotten a telephone call from one of the residents here near Friday Harbor. She felt that earthquake. She said it was like a truck ran into her house. It shook her house very violently, and it was also an up and down shaking, like a truck ran into her house. Again, right here we have a 0.4 microquake here near Orcas Island, Washington. Okay, this is an aftershock of that 5.1 earthquake here Sunday night into Monday. Okay, further south here, this is over northwest of Mount Rita, or not Mount Rita, Mount Rainier. Northwest of Mount Rainier. This is a 1.6 tremor here. This is in the foothills of Mount Rainier near Buckley, Washington. Buckley, Washington, a 1.6 tremor here. Further south, over here also northwest of Mount Rainier here, is a 1.1 near Capucin, Washington. Capucin, Washington. We've had quite a number of earthquakes here near Capucin, Washington in the past. This is the 1.1 tremor here today. Southeast of Mount Rainier here. Here's a 1.1 near Niles, Washington. 1.1 tremor near Niles, Washington. Northeast of there, almost directly east of Mount Rainier, Ellensburg, Washington. Ellensburg, Washington. This is a 0.6 microquake. Now, why is that important? Why would we want to even talk about Ellensburg, Washington? Look at the topography here. Look at the topography here. That will tell you a lot. Over here to the west, we have a volcano. We have remnants of a volcano erupting. Okay? Folks, that is why we have this earthquake here today. This earthquake is in a volcanic bed. It's in a volcanic bed 13 kilometers southwest of Ellensburg, Washington. Okay? All kinds of basaltic lava here. All kinds of basaltic lava here. Okay? That's why we're talking about it. I want everybody to be aware of it. Now we can go down here to Mount St. Helens. USPS is showing one minor event happening here. Over here on the eastern rim of Mount St. Helens. This is a 0.1 microquake, but guess what? Again, they're not being honest with us at all. There are literally dozens of microquakes, there are dozens of minor tremors, there are dozens of minor earthquakes here right now today at Mount St. Helens. They just don't want to talk about it. I've shown you that evidence the other day when we talked about the Pacific Northwest. Okay? I keep on showing you evidence of that every time we talk about that here. But USGS denies it happens. That's their fault. That is their fault. Now, in the Southern Cascadia Subduction Zone, we have some earthquakes here today. This is a 2.1 earthquake on the San Andreas Fault here. A 2.1 minor earthquake here on the San Andreas Fault, just off the coast of Petrolia, California. Going north, this is the 1.7 near Rio Del, California. Now, just about 6 months ago, just about 6 or 8 months ago, we had what constituted a 7.4 earthquake right here in the water here between the Cascadia Subduction Zone and the coast of California. a 7.4 earthquake. It caused a lot of damage. I reported on it. I reported on it for several days. Caused all kinds of damage, and it also had a lot of aftershocks, as you can imagine. It also killed 2 people here. Killed 2 people here. One person it killed was over here in Rio Dell, California. Ferndale, California was another place where the other person died. We talk about Ferndale, California a lot. This area is in the Cascadia subduction zone southern region. We can expect earthquakes like this to continue happening. It can continue happening. This earthquake in Rio Dell was a 1.7 tremor. Nobody felt it. Nobody felt it. Okay? Now, yesterday I also told you about earthquakes here in Southern California. Let's take you back here into Northern Hollywood. What happened today? North Hollywood. A 1.3 tremor happened here again today. Sunday night, we had what they said was a 4.5 earthquake here in Hollywood. This is an aftershock of that 4.5. 1.3 tremor here, and also a 1.3 tremor here. West of that, over here in Encino, California, this is a 1.5 tremor as well. Okay? Now, yesterday we also talked about down here in Southern California, this earthquake here is in Home Gardens, California. Okay? This is just south of mainland Los Angeles. South of mainland Los Angeles. Okay? Look where this earthquake is here. This earthquake is right next to a quarry here. Okay? This earthquake may very well have been a quarry blast. It's a 1.5 tremor here. 1.5 tremor. South of here, there's an explosion. Right down here. Okay? This is near Lake Elsinore. This is northeast of Lake Elsinore. There's no quarry here. It's not a quarry blast. I don't give a flying rat's frosty keister what USGS calls this. They call it a quarry blast, but it's not. It's nowhere near a quarry. It's out here in the hills. Excuse me. It's out here in the hills northeast of Lake Elsinore. I've been in these hills. Nowhere near a quarry. This is a 1.2 tremor. USGS, you need to start telling the truth. You need to start telling the truth, and you need to start telling the truth now, before DOGE gets hold of you. Before DOGE gets hold of you and they reveal what you have or have not been doing. And that's coming very soon. We go further south here. Okay, down here we're in the Anza Gap area. This is a Palomar Observatory. 4 kilometers west-southwest of Palomar Observatory. Again, that's for my wife. This is a 1.8 near Palomar Observatory. Palomar Observatory is where we have a telescope on top of Palomar Mountain. It's a Hale telescope. The Hale telescope was built in the 1940s. Okay, it's a world-renowned telescope that has implications of finding stars and even planets out there in the universe. Okay, right here. This is a 1.8 tremor. This is on the San Jacinto Fault. This earthquake at Palomar Mountain is on the San Jacinto Fault. Further south, also on the San Jacinto, we have a 1.6. This is Lake Henshaw. Lake Henshaw is northeast of Escondido. Northeast of Escondido. This used to be one of my fishing spots here. Okay, 1.6 tremor here, Lake Henshaw, California, northeast of Escondido. we come out here into the Imperial Valley that we talked about last night. This is south of Salton City. South of Salton City. This is a 1.0 tremor here, and we have another 0.6 microquake here. North of there, right here, we have a 0.9 microquake here. Okay? You see the Salton Sea here. Yesterday we talked about Bombay Beach. This is Bombay Beach. This is where the San Andreas Fault starts going underneath the Salton Sea. Before that, the San Andreas Fault runs alongside the east side of the Salton Sea. It goes underneath the Salton Sea here at Bombay Beach. Guess what? Bombay Beach is also a place, and I think it may have something to do with the San Andreas Fault going underneath the water here. Because over here at Bombay Beach every day without fail, we have 3.0, 3.5, and even 4.0 earthquakes happening every day. Many earthquakes happen here every day. Small, minor, and moderate earthquakes happen here every day at Bombay Beach. Okay? Last night we talked about Calipatria, California. Calipatria, California is right here. This is where the San Andreas Fault comes out from underneath the Salton Sea here. Then it takes a southwestern turn and goes down here to Westmoreland. This is Westmoreland, California down here. Then from Westmoreland, the San Andreas Fault takes a southerly turn. Goes all the way down here past the town of Imperial and out here into Holtville, California. We showed you earthquakes here at Holtville, California last night. Okay? Now, this is where the San Andreas Fault goes into northern Mexico. Okay? Now, the San Andreas Fault goes all the way down here. They say this is Delta Mexico. What else do we have here? Yes, we have an earthquake right here. This is a 2.6 minor earthquake here. But what's here north of there? What is here north of there? Right here we have another volcano, don't we? This is Cerro Prado volcano. Cerro Prado volcano. What is going on here near Cerro Prado volcano? Men have drilled into the upper magma chambers of the Cerro Prado volcano to obtain steam to power turbines to generate electricity for the people here in Mexico. That's what we see here. Okay, this is a steam generating facility here in northern Mexico, having to do with the Cerro Prado volcano here. That is one reason why I believe we've had this earthquake just south of there. Again, this is a 2.6 minor earthquake. 2.6 minor earthquake. Now the San Andreas Fault continues running south through northern Mexico, out here in the Gulf of California, continues southbound here through the Gulf of California, then it comes out here into the Pacific Ocean, and continues running south along the shores of southern Mexico right here. And yes, USGS is hiding it, but there's 23 earthquakes here in southern Mexico today. 23 earthquakes. Some of those earthquakes are 4.2 and 4.6, 4.3 earthquakes here in southern Mexico. I've been monitoring the situation all day long. Okay, that's been happening. Down here in Central America, okay, this is Costa Rica. This is a 4.3 earthquake here. 4.3 earthquake in Costa Rica, Central America today. Down here in Atacama and Tarapacá, Chile, northern Chile. USGS is showing 2 earthquakes. There are more than a dozen earthquakes here in northern Chile. More than a dozen earthquakes here in northern Chile. USGS just doesn't want to talk about it. This is a 4.3 earthquake here, Colchane, Bolivia. Colchane, Bolivia. This is at the border region of Chile and Bolivia. Okay? Further south here, this is Pedro de Atacama, Chile. San Pedro de Atacama, Chile. Okay? This is a 4.2 earthquake. There are more than a dozen earthquakes here in this region. There are earthquakes here in Peru as well. USGS is just not talking about it. Earthquakes further north into Colombia as well. Further earthquakes down here in central Chile as well. They're just not talking about it. Unfortunately. Over here into the Puerto Rico area, Puerto Rico region. Again, we see an earthquake over here on the Cayman Ridge. A 3.6 earthquake here. We continue to see earthquakes here. The Cayman Ridge starts off over here in Central America here, and it goes over here into the middle of the Caribbean. Okay? Then it turns north here, and then turns eastbound again. It goes south of Jamaica, eastbound, continue east over Jamaica, continue eastbound through the southern part of Cuba, continues east over Haiti and the Dominican Republic, and continues east over Puerto Rico as well. And it drops off earthquakes here in the Dominican Republic, Haiti, and everywhere else as this earthquake fault runs eastbound. Okay? And they drop this earthquake right here, a 3.6 earthquake here. Over on northern Puerto Rico here, the Cayman Ridge has nothing to do with this earthquake. This is completely different. This is over on the northern shore of Puerto Rico. This is a 2.3 earthquake here. Over here in southwestern Puerto Rico, this also has nothing to do with the Cayman Ridge. These are aftershocks of two major earthquakes that happened here back in December 26th and December 28th, 2019. 8.0 and 8.4 man-made earthquakes hit here December 26th and December 28th, 2019. And we continue seeing aftershocks from those quakes almost every day. This is a 2.9 3.0 earthquake. 2.9 3.0 aftershock. Further south over here is also 2.5. This is south-southwest of Indios, Puerto Rico. Both of these earthquakes are a result of major earthquakes that happened here 5 years ago, over 5 years ago now. Okay? That's what happened. That's what happened. Down here in the Leeward Islands here, we have another earthquake. Why? Because the Cayman Ridge runs north of Puerto Rico, runs north and around the U.S. and British Virgin Islands, and runs down alongside the Leeward Islands here. The Cayman Ridge dropped off an earthquake here. Okay? Seismic energy. 4.7 moderate earthquake hit here near Guadalupe Island. Okay? 4.7 earthquake here. Dropped off the Cayman Ridge here. Okay? That's what happened here. Now, I'm going to stop talking about earthquakes at this point. There is no point in going on here. I could talk literally all day about earthquakes here, but I have a lot of other things we need to talk about here. So please, guys, please understand what I'm talking about here. We can talk about earthquakes all day. Now, I want to talk about some of the things that are very important. And President Trump is going to address these at the State of the Union tonight. Okay? This past Friday, you saw President Zelenskyy of Ukraine go into the Oval Office to speak with President Trump and Vice President Vance. Before President Zelenskyy met with the President and Vice President, he met with the Democrat leaders of the House and Senate. Let me show you this video from Fox News about that. Okay, Zelenskyy met with a Democrat, the opposite party, putting bad juju in Zelenskyy's mind. Listen to this broadcast here.
State Department spokesperson Tammy Bruce is in focus now. Congratulations. I have not seen you since you got that post. Nice to see you. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you.
Let's get the total picture now, which includes some really angry, I don't know, what is the point of Democrats behaving the way that they have been, and now with these special guests that they're bringing? Your take?
Well, look, Americans made a statement last year during the election. They wanted Donald Trump. They wanted what he represents. He is a deal maker. He loves the country. He wants action. He knows how to get things done. He wants Americans to be safe, prosperous, and more secure. That is a nonpartisan argument. It is something Americans across the board want, and they made that statement, and now we've got it. It is a remarkable transformation of this country. After 6 weeks, the president has made it clear what he stands for. But this is, Harris, a whole of government reaction. I happen to work for the State Department and our Secretary of State, Marco Rubio. The president has chosen a team for the cabinet that understands what the American people want and can make it happen. So part of that dynamic, of course, is safety abroad, dealing with terrorists, arguing and making peace happen, bringing back, Harris, these very basic ideas that everyone benefits from. If you've got loved ones in the military, if you want a future you can count on for your families, Donald Trump's vision makes that happen. But it's not just an idea. As you know, tonight you're going to hear what you have to do to make that happen. As a business person, you can get ideas, but you have to implement them. And as a leader, it is the same framework. And of course, everyone in the cabinet, every department, whatever it is America needs to be doing, is following that visionary lead and implementing it accordingly.
All right, I want to ask you about what you would like to hear from the president tonight, because being at the State Department, there are a lot of things now that concern you. I mean, this blow up between Ukraine and really Ukraine against the world at this point, because its president was representing its people, didn't get a deal done that would have benefited them. You've got that cooking. You have Israel now saying they want a new ceasefire. Hamas isn't keeping its end of the deal up, so they pulled back aid in Gaza, Israel has. So you've got that cooking along too. Your thoughts?
Well, look, this is a renewal of the peace through strength dynamic. We learned about that, of course, with President Reagan. The fact is that the bad guys around the world are not going to suddenly turn into good guys when we're dealing with a group like Hamas. And our allies understand this. What is beneficial for both our allies and our enemies is to know that America is back, that Donald Trump doesn't play games, that when we have a dynamic like with President Zelenskyy, it was very unfortunate. He knew exactly what was happening and what was needed, and yet he decided to do something else in the midst of the Oval Office. And that kind of disrespect for the nation, for both the president and vice president, is unacceptable. And yet, the commitment remains. There's a very distinct focus by the president and this administration for peace to prevail. And I think now, of course, there's still an open door for this to be renewed, for this to take place for President Zelenskyy on behalf of his country. But when it comes to the world in general, people understand, especially like with the border, that our partners understand that this is going to happen. We've got a president who means business and is going to take action to make it all happen. So it's a very exciting time.
No doubt. I would anticipate, and I'd mentioned before we had you on just moments ago, that the border would be in focus for them tonight. I would think all of everybody in the chamber, all of America, and then with the president speaking. This is just happening, and it's something that we could hear about tonight as well, Tammy. The Trump administration is looking at what is next and next steps with Ukraine, and what those steps will be after last week's tense dust-up in the Oval Office. The White House has temporarily paused military aid to Ukraine until that country's leaders prove a commitment to reaching peace. So much of what our spokesperson, Tammy Bruce, for the State Department, was just talking about, who wants peace in this deal? Trump does. And the president's strongly pushing Ukraine's President Zelenskyy now to change his tune.
I think it takes two to tango, and you're going to have to make a deal with Russia, and you're going to have to make a deal with Ukraine. Now, maybe somebody doesn't want to make a deal, and if somebody doesn't want to make a deal, I think that person won't be around very long. That person will not be listened to very long, because I believe that Russia wants to make a deal. I believe certainly the people of Ukraine want to make a deal.
Vice President J.D. Vance earlier today.
It's important that everybody come to the table, and the president is trying to send a very explicit message. The Ukrainians have got to come to the table and start negotiating with President Trump.
All right, and Tammy, I want to get to this because it's part of the story that broke just moments ago. We wanted to get this up on screen so everybody could see it together. It looks like President Zelenskyy may be listening, and that President Trump is having some success with his pressure campaign. Zelenskyy has just posted this: "Nobody wants peace more than Ukrainians. My team and I stand ready to work under President Trump's strong leadership to get a peace that lasts. We are ready to work fast to end the war." Our meeting in Washington at the White House on Friday did not go the way it was supposed to be. It is regrettable that it happened this way. It is time to make things right. Tammy,
It's time to make things right, okay? That's today. That was earlier this morning. He said it's time to make things right. Well, guess what? It's far past that time. It's far past that time. Let's go to see what happened on Friday morning before he met with President Trump and Vice President Vance.
The peace deal that blew up in the Oval Office Friday would have been the starting point for negotiations to end the Ukraine war. It would have put America at the center of Ukraine's future development, and it would have brought back some of the money we invested over there. It's also worth mentioning that it would have stopped the killing. So how come it fell apart in that Oval Office blow-up? Well, perhaps it's got something to do with the meeting that Zelenskyy had with top Democrats hours before he arrived at the White House. Democrat Senator Chris Murphy posted this on X on Friday morning. Quote, "Just finished a meeting with President Zelenskyy here in Washington. He confirmed that the Ukrainian people will not support a fake peace agreement where Putin gets everything he wants, and there are no security arrangements for Ukraine," end quote. In other words, just before Zelenskyy was due to sign the deal, he was telling the Democrats he didn't like it, and they supported his opposition. They encouraged him not to sign. Then Zelenskyy went into the Oval Office, rolled his eyes, talked over the president, argued with him, and killed the whole thing. No doubt the Democrats are pleased. They've helped scuttle President Trump's foreign policy initiative. They're piling on the insults. Senator Adam Schiff calls our president a coward. Democrat Congressman Seth Moulton says Zelensky's a hero for standing up to Trump and Vance, who he calls puppets. Perhaps the left believes that Trump can be demonized again. Is this the returned Trump derangement syndrome, maybe? That doesn't do America any good at all, and it certainly doesn't help the people of Ukraine who now have to keep fighting. One last point. In 2022, months after the war broke out, President Biden lost his temper in a phone call with Zelenskyy. He told him to, quote, "show a little gratitude." That's exactly what J.D. Vance told him on Friday. For Democrats, it's only bad if Trump is involved.
With the Democrats, it's only bad if President Trump is involved. Isn't that interesting? The Democrats got hold of Zelenskyy and then turned things upside down for President Trump and Vice President Vance. Turned things upside down. What a bunch of crock of crap that is. Okay? Then look what happens here.
Fallout from a disastrous Oval Office meeting.
You don't have the cards. You're buried there.
The president of Ukraine now in the UK.
You have full backing across the United Kingdom.
As shockwaves from that fiery exchange with Trump continue to be felt around the world.
That was atrocious behavior.
The historic deal to protect nature. The billions in funding which will now flow for biodiversity. And the...
Tonight, Carolyn Jarvis.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. A day after a heated Oval Office meeting with U.S. President Donald Trump, Volodymyr Zelenskyy is back in Europe, where heads of state are rallying behind the Ukrainian leader. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer embraced Zelenskyy outside 10 Downing Street moments before expressing Britain's unwavering support for Ukraine. It's a starkly different scene from the extraordinary exchange that played out in front of cameras at the White House just a day ago. Zelenskyy says he has also secured a meeting with King Charles while in London, and tomorrow he will meet with Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and other leaders at a Ukraine security summit. Vincent McAvenny joins us from London with more. Vincent.
Carolyn, President Zelenskyy met with British Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer this evening here at number 10 Downing Street after what has been a whirlwind 24 hours. Greeted with a hug, not just a handshake after a bruising trip to Washington.
As you heard from the cheers on the street outside, you have full backing across the United Kingdom, and we stand with you in Ukraine for as long as it may take.
We count on your support, and really, we're really happy that we have such partners and such friends.
Even underlining that support with a new loan agreement insured by frozen Russian assets worth over $4 billion Canadian dollars.
A loan agreement. That was a loan. The Ukraine is going to have to pay back to the Britons. Okay? Loan agreement that Zelenskyy and his government are going to have to pay back to Britain.
Friday's Oval Office meeting has led headlines everywhere. Instead of securing the foundation of a ceasefire with a minerals deal, Zelenskyy was publicly scolded by the US president and ejected empty-handed from the White House. In Russia, the exchange was played out in full, with presenters talking of a diplomatic train wreck and a public political execution. No word yet from President Putin, who likely enjoyed what President Trump called great TV. In Kyiv, Ukrainians are alarmed and upset.
It looked like fighting a hoodlum from the block, like in a Godfather movie. Kiss the ring. If you don't, get out.
I think that Zelenskyy defended our position as a Ukrainian nation. Despite the pressure that was put on him, that was most likely planned before his arrival.
Americans visiting Germany expressed their embarrassment.
That was atrocious behavior on the behalf of the United States President yesterday and the Vice Presidents against a man that we should be very supportive of.
Western leaders have been almost unanimous in their support of President Zelenskyy today. Many of them are making their way to London for Sunday's emergency summit. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau will join them here in London tomorrow to discuss what, if anything, can be done to calm this row and secure a peace deal.
Okay? Europeans want peace as well. Okay? Europeans are talking peace. Zelenskyy, up until today, was talking about a continued war that was going to last for a long time. He secured a loan, a large multi-million-dollar loan, I think it was 5 million pounds from Britain alone. Something that he could have gotten from the United States as money given to him if he had told the line with the US President Trump. But instead, Zelenskyy was given bad information by our Democrats before he met with President Trump. That's what turned the whole thing upside down. Our Democrats, the people that hate President Trump, gave Zelenskyy bad information. And as a result, Zelenskyy turned on the president, and you saw what happened before the entire world. And even President Trump said it made good TV. Unreal. And yet now Zelenskyy is turning the other cheek. Zelenskyy wants it to turn otherwise. Okay? He said these words: "Nobody wants peace more than the Ukrainians. My team and I stand ready to work under President Trump's strong leadership to get a peace that lasts. We are ready to work fast and end the war. Our meeting in Washington at the White House on Friday did not go the way it was supposed to be. It is regrettable that it happened this way, and it's time to make things right. I hope Zelenskyy wants to live by those words. I hope Zelenskyy wants to learn how to do things the right way and to make things right with President Trump. Otherwise, it's going to blow up in his face. It'll totally blow up in his face. Now let's talk about something more closer to home that is looming today as we speak. Let's go over here to the Prime Minister of Ontario, Canada. You're going to want to hear this.
Are people nervous? Yeah, they're nervous because of President Trump. We have to make sure, you have two choices here, folks. We roll over as a country and just let them run over us, or we fight like hell, like we've never fought before. I'm taking option 2. I'm fighting like hell, and we're going to protect Canada. He's underestimating the Canadian people, the resilience of the Canadian people, and the strength of the Canadian people. I said, number 1, I don't start a tariff war, but we're going to win this tariff war. Right off the hop, I've directed the LCBO, we're the largest purchaser of alcohol in the world, to remove every bit of U.S. alcohol off the shelves. I know my good friend, the governor of Kentucky, he's losing his mind right now. I said, you better talk to your president. Mitch McConnell, senior senator from Kentucky, they're losing their mind. We purchased over $1 billion of alcohol, 3,600 products, 35 states. It's going to hit them. We call them the kitchen table issues. Then we're going to cancel Starlinks right away from Elon Musk. Not that $100 million makes a difference for him, but it's principle. I've directed the procurement of over $30 billion of goods, not to go to the U.S., to make sure we buy Ontario first. And if we can't find it in Ontario and we can't build it in Ontario, we go across the country. I'm asking politely, until I implement it, every retail store, when you go look at the shelf talker that has the price, we need to see a Canadian flag on that price. A lot of people can't pick it up and scan it. So please work with us, or we're going to legislate it. I'll tell you this. Uranium for the U.S. comes from Saskatchewan. I've had deep conversations with my good friend, closest ally, Scott Moe, the Premier of Saskatchewan. That uranium goes over to Port Hope, Ontario to get processed. From Port Hope, it goes down to get enriched, down to the U.S. I will not and cannot speak for Scott Moe. He's a patriot. He loves Canada. But if we got to stockpile our high-grade nickel here in Ontario and sell it to the world, so be it. And as for uranium, I'll leave that up to Scott to decide. The potash that fertilizes all their farming communities. As President Trump is going after our dairy farmers, we're sending them fertilizer. 87% of it is going to the U.S. And yeah, can they try to get potash everywhere else? They can, but they can't get it up the Mississippi River. So they're stuck with Canadian potash. Can they get uranium? Yeah, if they want to cozy up to Russia, which I see President Trump doing, you can try to get uranium there. But why would you do that? We want to ship more uranium, more potash, more nickel, more energy, and build an AMCAN fortress. I can't for the life of me figure out why this guy's attacking his closest neighbors, allies, and friends. A tariff on Canada is a tax on Americans. And I'm going to repeat that on NBC, CNN, Fox News, CNBC. I'm going to be hammering the airwaves to get that message to the Americans. They're going to get hurt. It's the wrong decision. But if they want to try to annihilate Ontario, I will do everything, including cut off their energy, with a smile on my face. So, and I'm encouraging every other province to do the same. Quebec, Manitoba, BC, we all have to act in unison. Out east, they rely on our energy. They need to feel the pain. They want to come at us hard. We're going to come back twice as hard.
About the Starlink deal, why not cancel that right now? Given what the president, the display in the Oval Office, you've been a strong supporter of Ukraine. We know that Starlink, there's been a problem with Starlink in Ukraine, and Mr. Musk, why not send a message right now to the Ukrainian people and to people in Canada and say this deal is done, we're not doing business with this guy?
I'm not going to start a tariff war. I'm not going to be the one that pokes the line, per se. but I can assure you, he comes at us, he's going to get a rude awakening. We're unlike any other country. You know, we have 41 million people, but we're powerful. We're powerful on energy. We're powerful on nuclear energy, on oil, on goods going back and forth across the border. We buy more off the United States than any other government in the world. And I always say, President Trump, you can't unscramble an egg. The supply chain's so intertwined. You just have to make it a larger omelet. That's what you have to do. And we'll see how he moves on this. But we will respond, as sure as I'm standing here, tariff for tariff, dollar for dollar, and anything that I can do as a province, we're going to do.
Okay? You heard it. You heard it. That Canadian Prime Minister from Ontario is going to do whatever he can to turn off power here in the United States, because yes, the United States buys power from Canada. Let's talk about how Canadians are responding to the trade war. Let's talk about that. How do you think Canadians are responding to the trade war? What do you think is happening? Okay? Let's talk about this. There is an imaginary person named Parker Lund and his wife who've been stockpiling soybeans, black beans, peanut butter, toilet paper, paper towels, and tissues for the past few weeks, since they heard the threat about the U.S. tariff wars. The retirees in their 80s say they have stored dozens of products in their basements in Halifax. And they're not done yet. They have plans to stock up a lot more items soon. Apparently, the tariff wars will start at midnight tonight. Lund is an 86-year-old retired teacher. He said he and his wife are worried that the trade war between the U.S. and Canada will increase the price for products. Richard Smith, who lives in Nova Scotia, Canada, says he apologizes for his country. Richard, you don't have to apologize. Your leaders do. Your leaders are buffaloed by communism. Buffaloed by communism. Okay? Now, you all over in Canada think that you're really going to go up when the tariffs go on, and why we're doing it. Lund said in a phone interview with Canada TV News in Canada on February 27th, if prices will be a shock, prices will be a shock, but at least we'll be semi-prepared for it. He said he and his wife are trying to buy Canadian, at least non-American products. Products even if they have to pay more, because they feel it's a patriotic duty to protest U.S. President Trump. North American trade war was triggered after the U.S. imposed a 25% tariff across the board, tariffs against Canada and tariffs against Mexico. On Tuesday, tonight, Canadian energy was hit with a 10% levy. Canada, meanwhile, is retaliating with counter tariffs against U.S. products. In addition, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and the federal government is in talks with provinces and territories about possible non-tariff measures. Despite Canada's anxiety about tariffs, there haven't been long lines at stores and empty shelves reminiscent of the COVID-19 pandemic. And it is unclear whether the products that the Lunds bought will eventually see price hikes. Still, they and other consumers are worried about the financial hit, as Canadians should brace themselves for some pocketbook pain as a result of the trade war. Now, a lot of people are bracing for a hard ride, a very rough ride on both sides of the border. Elizabeth Richardson, a semi-retired teacher in her 60s, said she and her friends aren't stockpiling products, but they're buying Canadian items wherever possible and avoiding American ones. Canadians should gear up for a really rough ride, and Americans should also. Miss Richardson said she's trying not to worry about it since she has no control over the situation. And I say the same thing. None of us has control over it. None of us has control over it. I'm not going into a situation like we had with COVID, where everybody raided all the grocery store shelves and bought all the toilet paper and the paper towels and everything else. She said she prepared for possible price hikes before Trump even got elected in November, learning how to tell when products were produced or made in Canada. Richardson says it's easier to find Canadian products than people may think, noting she uses apps and other online resources to help her search. It's all part of our reaction to the tariffs and the punitive behavior that Donald Trump has adopted towards Canada. It's not just towards Canada, guys. It's not punitive behavior. President Trump wants to equalize money between the two countries. President Trump is trying to help the United States because we have paid higher tariffs a product that we buy from Canada. And now, because we've imposed a tariff against Canada, all of a sudden, their leaders think, oh, the U.S. is punishing us. If the Canadian Parliament, the Canadian Prime Minister, and the premiers would get off their sorry keisters and lower the tariffs against the United States, the U.S. would do the same. But again, the Canadian politicians are just wanting the U.S. to pay, give, and they don't want anything to give here to America. That's what the deal is. It's America first here now. Basically, what we're doing is imposing a tariff equal to Canada. Equal to Canada. That's even exchange. That's an even exchange. One money equals the next. Okay? It's equal out. Now, there are politicians that think otherwise. They want to only buy Canadian products and not American anymore. America is not trying to ruin Canada. America wants nothing but the best for all citizens on both sides of the border. If Canada and the other countries would get off their sorry keisters and do what's right, none of us would have tariffs at all. None of us would have tariffs at all. But again, other countries are not paying their fair share to the United States either. That's why President Trump instituted tariffs, to protect American citizens. That's why. That's why. Richard Smith says no politics in Canada are good anymore. And I say the same thing about here in America. And President Trump's trying to equal it out. The Democrats didn't want to do anything. The Democrats wanted to give everything away until we had no more. And as a result, the Democrat Communist Party here in America would have given us everything away until our country became bankrupt and became the third world country, similar to what Gaza's turned into, and other third world countries around the world. We don't want that to happen. Also, Trump has gone here into America and taken back what is ours. Okay? The United States government is not taking advantage of Americans anymore. That's why President Trump hired, I shouldn't say he hired, because Elon Musk is working without money. He's not getting paid. He's a billionaire. But he's trying to help America get back what is ours. Help the United States citizens recover from communism worldwide and communism at our own borders. They sealed the border to Mexico. Sealed it. Almost 99% sealed. And the United States is also making Canada seal their border. Because Canada has, folks, Canada has drug factories in Canada, shipping drugs here in the United States, and I'm talking about fentanyl and other dangerous drugs. Yes, Canada has drug factories there in Canada, and President Trump says no more. President Trump says no more. Okay, that's what's going on. I believe we have to support our countries. Both Canada and the United States need to support their countries, and Mexico needs to support their own. They need to stop taking advantage of the United States government. They need to stop taking advantage of the United States government. I've said that since day one. I'll say it now. We need to take care of each other. We need to take care of each other. We are humans. We're human beings. We have to take care of each other. That's what God wants us to do. That is exactly what God wants us to do, is to take care of each other. Okay? Now, before I go, Silver Mink says she's got to go. I'm sorry. Now, I wanted to leave you with a devotional here. Silver Mink, if you can stick around for just another minute. I want to talk about survival to sacred significance. Okay? 5 levels of success. We're not going to get to all 5 levels tonight, but we're going to start with level 1. Life unfolds in stages, much like the chapters of a book, each with its own narrative, challenges, and lessons. In my own journey, the framework of Joe Stuff's levels of success: survival, stability, success, significance, and sacredness resonates deeply. And in capitalizing the phrases I have traversed: survival. My earliest memories are tinged with the struggle for survival, my own and my family's. We didn't have much money. Like many, I was not born with a silver spoon. The world demanded grit, perseverance, and a relentless spirit just to survive for the basic necessities. Every day was a lesson in resilience. Every challenge is a testament to the human spirit's tenacity. Talking about stability. As time passed, I steered my life towards stability. This did not just mean financial security, but also establishing boundaries of values, routines, and relationships that provided a consistent backdrop against the ebb and flow of life. It was during this phase of my life that I began to understand my father's ethos, at least my father's ethos a little better. As all of us, our parents were parents. We didn't totally understand them until we got older. My father was not just building a business. He was crafting a legacy of reliability and trust. Reliability and trust that he was trying to teach us. Let's talk about success. With the bedrock of stability already laid, like a bricklayer my dad was. With a bedrock of stability laid, my aspirations soared higher. Inspired by my father, I ventured into the world of business. His achievements began my benchmarks. His ethos was my guiding star. And soon, success was not just a dream. It was my reality. But with every accolade, I felt an urge, a nudge that there was something more, something beyond. Talk about significance for a minute. That something more began to be clear as I transitioned into seeking significance. I realized that true success was not just about personal milestones. It was about making a difference, touching lives, and leaving an indelible mark. I wanted my legacy to be more than just about business numbers. I wanted to be more remembered for the lives that I touched, the lives that I changed, and the communities I had uplifted. Let's talk about sacred. Sacred is very important to me. And now as I sit down here talking about this chapter of my life, I stand at the precipice of the sacred my father's entrepreneurial spirit courses through my veins. The sacred part of me. But it's also intertwined with a faith-driven mindset that yearns for a deeper connection. This sacred for me is a harmonious blend of my worldly ambitions and my spiritual aspirations. It's about not just achieving, but achieving with purpose, with God by my side. The sacred phase is not just a passive state of introspection. It's about action, integrating faith into every business decision, every decision of my life. It's about ensuring that my actions do not just serve my personal goals, but serve a higher purpose. My father provided me with the blueprint for success, and now I aim to infuse it with sacredness and sacred significance, creating a legacy that's not just successful, but spiritually fulfilling. This journey from survival to the sacred has been transformative for me. Each phase of this has sculpted me, teaching invaluable lessons and offering unique perspectives. But it is the sacredness that I cherish the most, because it brings everything full circle, combining the tangible achievements with the intangible essence of faith, purpose, and divine destiny. Brothers and sisters, we are here for each other. We are all here for each other. We're here for ourselves. We're here to make a legacy for ourselves. We're here trying to make a legacy, but also trying to achieve the absolute guidance that the Lord can give us so that we might return to Him. Sacredness combines with success, which will take us into eternity. I know that God lives. He hears and answers our prayers. He wants us to return to Him. I want to leave this testimony with you that I know He lives, and I love Him. I love His Son, Jesus Christ. I urge each one of us, especially at this point in this year and this point in our lives, to find Jesus Christ and reach out to Him. Reach out and touch Him. We need to make that relationship, that connection with Him. And we need to keep ourselves on the path, our covenant path with the Lord. I ask the Lord for a blessing for each one of you. May God bless you in all that you do, in your families and in your relationships with your fellow man. God be with you until we meet again. We'll be on the other side very soon. God be with you until we meet again.